Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology, where you will learn to simplify and transform your life. My name is James Miller. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a composer. In this episode, I wanted to speak with you about worst-case scenario. We often don't realize it, but anytime we have a sense of anxiety that comes up when we think about something, we're probably thinking about that situation with a worst-case scenario outcome. And so when that happens, we often will not make a decision moving forward because we're looking at a hypothetical potential that influences our current present. And so that often can stunt us from making any forward movement. A worst case scenario outcome would be perhaps asking your boss for a raise. And in doing that, asking them, we often think, oh, what happens if they're mad at me? What happens if I get fired because of that? And those things just simply don't go together. You're just simply going to ask. Another thing could be maybe asking someone out. You're fearful that if you ask someone out, that the way they're going to perceive you, or they're going to laugh at you, or they're going to perhaps do something that's horrendous to you. And those two things just don't go together. So worst case scenario outcomes are often kind of shrouded in what our fears are, what our anxiety is about anything. And so if we have kind of a propensity for anxiety, or just that's kind of more of our disposition, we will automatically go to those worst case scenario situations. So the way around that, or the workaround, is if you're feeling any type of anxiety when you're looking to do something new, or you're thinking about something in the future, the future could be 5 minutes from now. When you think about it, when you feel that sense of anxiety, you have to immediately stop and say, all right, I'm looking at this in worst case scenario. What is probably a realistic outcome, a realistic situation? So let's say you're going to ask your boss for a raise. Instead of thinking that you're going to be fired because you ask him, you simply say, okay, well, the worst case scenario is I get fired. The realistic outcome is probably he will say, let me think about it, or no, or yes. So there are many more realistic outcomes that are not going to lead to the worst case of you getting fired. And so when we can move the situation down to probably what the realistic outcome is going to be, you still may feel the anxiety, but you're not going to feel it at that higher, more hypervigilant level than you would should you be thinking of worst case scenario. Let's say you're going to ask this person out on a date. And so when you ask this person out, we're thinking the worst case that you're going to be laughed at or scoffed at, or they're going to make fun of you. And probably the realistic outcome is going to be they're either going to say yes or no. And if they say no, well, you didn't lose anything because you weren't dating them anyway. If they say yes, then that's a positive outcome for you. So when we can move it down to, you're going to be okay. The world is not going to end. The sky is not going to fall. You're not going to get fired. So when you can move everything down to a realistic outcome and kind of take away the worst case scenario, then like I said, it moves your anxiety levels down. And yes, you still may feel anxious, but when it's at a more realistic version of what that anxiety should be, then you can deal with it appropriately. Because once again, if you live your life in a hypervigilant or worst case scenario future, a hypothetical future, well, that's going to affect your present. And since we live in the present, we have to look at that now. And so when you strip away the worst case scenario, you'll be able to make the decisions that are healthier for you. So thank you so much for watching James Miller Lifeology. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.